Hare Krishna. Welcome again to our Krishna Lounge here on Thursday. Nice kirtan, huh? So today's a very special day for all of us. It's the first day of the rest of our life. There was a person, a king, who found out that he was to die in 7 days. So he was a wise king. So he decided that the best thing that I could do is find out what is the perfection, what is the goal of life. So it became known that he was searching for the truth. So many saintly people gathered in one place, and he went there, and he was inquiring what is the truth from many saintly people. But he wasn't satisfied. But then one person came, and everybody could understand this is the person that could answer the questions. His name was Parikshit Maharaj. Sukadeva Goswami came, and everybody kind of separated and let him come through, and he sat on the Vyasasana, the seat where someone speaks the truth. And he spoke the truth to this king for 7 days. And all these hundreds of saintly people, they sat and they heard this person, Sukadeva Goswami, speaking the truth. And actually this is the goal of the human form of life, is to find out what is the truth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam that Sukadeva Goswami spoke, he said, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Sabjite. He said the truth consists of three. That is Brahman. Some of you may have heard the white light. Yeah. The effulgence, it's the effulgence of Krishna. So that's Brahman. Actually, the sun is an emanation of the Brahmajyoti. And then there's Paramatma. Paramatma is the expansion of Krishna in the hearts of all living entities. Wherever we go, the Paramatma is there. Our best friend, always looking for our welfare, has our most wanted desires at heart, wants to help us. And then there's Krishna. Krishna is he from whom everything emanates from. Just like sometimes when you're driving, let's say you're driving in some distant place, you're going north near the Sierra Mountains, and you get some distance, quite some distance, and you can't tell, is that mountains or is that a cloud? It's vague. Yeah. You can't tell because it's so far away. But once you get closer, then you understand, it's definitely the mountains, the high Sierras. And you get closer, And you actually go on the mountains and you see all the variety, you know, the plants and the animals and the rivers. And so that when you're in that distance where you can't tell, is that a mountain or is that a cloud? What is that? That's compared to Brahman realization. Preliminary realization of the highest understanding of the Absolute Truth. And then you get closer and you understand, yes, that's definitely a mountain. That's compared to Paramatma realization, realization of the soul within the heart, which is actually very elevated. But then you get closer, you actually go on the mountain, then that's the highest. Yeah. You see the variety, the many varieties on the mountain. So this human form of life is an opportunity to understand what is the highest truth. Only in the human form of life can we inquire, what is the truth? Animals don't come in here. Only human beings. We can inquire. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now is the time to inquire about the Absolute Truth. At night, sometimes we have dreams. Quite often, we have dreams. When we wake up from the dream, then it stops immediately. So people in this world dreaming, I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor, I'm a policeman, I'm a this, I'm a that. When you wake up from that dream and realize, actually, I'm not this body. I'm the soul within. Then that dream ends. It's like sometimes people, they're dreaming and they have nightmares. I remember when I was young, I was about maybe 17, I was taking care of my niece. My sister and brother-in-law had gone off, and they were out for the evening, and I was taking care of my niece. And she was having a nightmare, and she was screaming. And I shook her, and it's okay, it's just a nightmare. She wouldn't wake up. I picked her up, and I'm shaking her. It's okay, wake up. It's just a nightmare. And she wouldn't stop screaming. It was a very unusual experience for a young 17-year-old boy. I didn't know what to do. She wouldn't wake up. So I went across the street to a neighbor and told this neighbor, said, my niece is having a nightmare, and she won't wake up. I'm shaking her. So she came over, this neighbor, and she saw the situation. She's still screaming. So my neighbor told me, go get a cup of water. Okay, so I went over and got a cup of water, handed it to her, and my neighbor told my niece, drink this. Somehow she followed the instruction. Took the cup of water, drank it, snapped right out of it. I was impressed, you know. So this material life is kind of like it's like a nightmare, you know, from reality. I mean, in reality, our nature is eternality, knowledge, and bliss. We're completely happy, complete knowledge, and our complete awareness that we're spirit soul. But in this situation we're in now, sometimes there's bits and pieces of happiness, but there's a lot of distress. It's the main disease in the world now. Stress. And therefore, so many psychiatrists and doctors, actually disease begins with the stress, in general. So, and there's so much ignorance. You know. We're born in this world with so much ignorance. Therefore we go to school and we learn something, but we don't learn what is most valuable. We don't learn about who we are, which is most important. Yeah. We're spirit soul, eternal spirit souls. And when one understands that, when one becomes self-realized, then it's a big step. It's a huge step in reaching the goal of life. Not an easy thing to achieve. But it's stated in the Vedic literature that one must be enthusiastic, utsaha nischaya dharya. Like people are very enthusiastic in material life, working hard and to get money. Money is the honey. Right? But actually we should be enthusiastic in trying to understand what is the perfection of life. Why am I here? What happens at the time of death? What's the goal of life? At the time of death we don't die. None of us want to die because we don't. We continue according to how we live this life. We're the architects of our future. Yeah. Wherever we see life, there's a soul there. You know, you see a tree, you see a dog, you see a bird. They're alive. That means there's a soul there. And according to our karma, we can go up or we can go down. This is a junction. The human form of life is a junction. We can go up or down. Better go up. And we can go up. This age is called the age of Kali. The age of quarrel and hypocrisy. A lot of illusion also. But it's stated in the Shastra, in our Vedic literature, Kalir doshanid he rajan asti hekam mahadgunaha. That this age of Kali has many faults. Wherever you go, there's so many faults. The leaders, they don't know how to lead the people. And the nature of this world is that people have a tendency to cheat. I was speaking to one student about this at a university, how the nature of the conditioned soul is they have this cheating propensity. And he said, oh yeah, I was just reading in the newspaper, there was one psychiatrist who was treating a patient that had many split personalities. He had about 10 split personalities. Quite a case to work with, huh? So this psychiatrist had a brilliant idea of charging each of the split personalities. One person charges 10 times. So one of the split personalities had enough intelligence to take this doctor to court. And the judge was just, he couldn't believe it. So he took away his license and he had to go to jail for 2 years. Yeah. Such cheating is going on. You know. So this is the nature of this world. People have a tendency to cheat, to be an illusion. You know, we're in this illusion that we're this body, that we're American or Russian or Spanish or Chinese. Imperfect senses. It's like sometimes people, they depend too much on their senses. Their eyes especially. Like, depends so much on their eyes. You can't see the soul, doesn't exist. But our senses are so limited, our eyes are so limited, we can't even see our eyelid. It's the closest thing to our eyes, but we can't see our eyelid. Anybody know what your eyelid looks like? You can't see it. It's just darkness, right? But so much faith in our eyes. Imperfect senses. Tendency to cheat, to be an illusion. So these are some of the inebrities of the conditioned soul. But we can get purified. The soul can become pure, the mind can become pure. It's stated in the Bhagavad Gita that above dull matter is the senses. Above the senses is the mind. Superior to the mind is the intelligence. And above the intelligence is the soul. So, this intelligence that we've been given should be utilized properly. Intelligence means, Srila Prabhupada, our guru, said, intelligence means to see things in their proper perspective. What are we? Are we these bodies? Srila Prabhupada, our Param Guru, the founder of this movement, he was in Australia. And he was speaking to some youth, maybe 13 years old, very young. So he asked, who's the most intelligent here? So all the students said, they pointed to this one student. So he stood up, most intelligent. So Prabhupada called him up. So he asked this student, where is your head? Okay. Where is your arm? Where is your left arm? Okay. Where is your leg? Where is your chest? He's pointing in all these different places. Now where are you? And he was stuck. You know, there's my leg, my arm, my chest, my head. Where am I? So we say my leg, my arm, my chest. We possess it. And just like you have, so many of you have cars. It's my car. But we can't say my soul. Because we are the soul. That's who we are. We're the soul within. And the soul is so powerful that it can't be destroyed by any weapon. And if we control the senses, if we control the mind, you see how powerful the soul is. Able to do amazing things. Just like Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, he was 70 years old. I mean, generally when someone is 70 years old, you know, retire, right? Practically everybody. 70, that's it. You retire. But at 70, he leaves India on a boat. Took, 40 days or something like that? Long time. Had 2 strokes. Heart attacks, actually. Had 2 heart attacks on the ship. So, whew, imagine. And then he gets to Boston, and he's inspired. He's so inspired, he writes a beautiful poem. Unfortunately, I haven't memorized it. But he was a real poet. Beautiful, beautiful poem he wrote. So eventually he went to New York City, and he's speaking. For 1 year, he's speaking to people, a little bit here and there. But for 1 year, practically no result. Nothing. But he was determined. He had this utsaha, he had this enthusiasm to help people understand who they are. He had this determination to help people become happy. He knew that this chanting of Hare Krishna that we were just doing can purify the heart, can purify the mind. He had that faith. And sure enough, within 10 years, there was thousands of people all over the world very happily chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, hearing the absolute truth, the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Their lives are just becoming sublime. And even there was one point where a Christian priest went to Prabhupada in an airport as he was traveling. And the priest said, "These boys you have, they're our boys. But they weren't interested in God at all. And now they're mad after God and they're bright-faced. They're happy. How'd you do that?" So this is the result of chanting Hare Krishna. Become very happy, bright-faced, inner happiness. Krishna says, Yonta sukho tara ramas. One whose happiness is within, who is active within, whose aim is inward, has achieved liberation. So the real happiness is within. There's an example given in the Srimad Bhagavatam by Sukadeva Goswami of a deer. He was in a forest and he was dying of thirst. But he didn't know that very close to him was some water, but he couldn't see it because it's covered by grass. So he went in the wrong direction because of ignorance, and the deer died. So similarly, we're looking all over the place for happiness, but we don't know that the source of happiness is within. The super soul. Service to Paramatma, service to Krishna. This brings unlimited happiness to the soul. So much so that one is not interested in anything in this world. Becomes oblivious to the so-called pleasures of this world. So this Parikshit Maharaj, he knew what to do. He inquired from very wise man, Sukadeva Goswami, and from hearing from Sukadeva Goswami, he attained the perfection of life. The perfection of life is where we're so pure that when the soul leaves the body and goes back to the spiritual world. So he achieved that. And by hearing Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, we can achieve that. There's one verse here I wanted to say to you. One of my favorites. Yehi sam sparshaja boga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta konteya natesu ramate buddha. Krishna says an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with material senses. Such pleasures, they have a beginning and an end. So a wise man does not take delight in them. All the so-called pleasures in this world that people are striving for, they have a beginning and an end. But we don't want that. Nobody wants an end to their happiness, right? Nobody. I was speaking to a friend earlier today, and he had had many relationships, and he said they all ended up bitter. And this is the nature of this world, you know, that in the mode of passion, it appears very nice in the beginning, and then it becomes like poison in the end. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita. But that person who is in the mode of goodness, it appears bitter in the beginning, becomes nectar in the end. Austerity. In this purport here, Prabhupada mentions this verse, very important verse, Nayang deho dehabhajram naloke custom kaman arhate vidbhujanya. This is from an incarnation of Krishna, Lord Rishabhdev. He says, of all persons who have accepted the human form of life, or of all persons who have accepted bodies, the persons who have accepted the human form of life, they shouldn't waste their time in engaging in the activities of the animals. But what are the animals doing? They're eating, like ourselves. They're sleeping. They're mating. They're defending. These are the activities of the animals. So this is all the human beings are doing. Then Prabhupada used to say, then they're like polished animals. Yeah. They have 2 legs, 2 arms, but the activities are the same. So no, human form of life, we're meant to do more than just what the animals are doing. We're meant to inquire the absolute truth and serve the absolute truth. This is the happiness of the soul. So he goes on to say that therefore one should perform austerities, and from this austerity one achieves brahmasokyam tvanantam, the happiness of the soul. So this is what we want. Everybody wants happiness. So Krishna explains where that happiness is. It's in service to the Supreme. So many people, they're serving their senses. There's an interesting statement in our text. Kamarinam katina katita palita dorni desas. This one great devotee, he says, for so long I've been the humble, menial servant of many bad masters. And what are those bad masters? Lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, madness. A few days ago I was speaking to one person, and he said, I distribute books. This is my service to Krishna. I distribute these books around the world, actually. 60 countries so far. So I was speaking to one person, and he said, will this book help me to stop my anger? I become very angry. I become violent even. Will this help me? I said, oh yes, yes. This will help you understand who you are. You're thinking you're this body, and things that go against the grain of your body and your mind disturb you. But you're not your body, you're not your mind. You're something different, you're the soul within. So this will help you transcend anger. So this helps one transcend all these bad masters. So this person goes on to say, but now, Krishna, you've given me transcendental intelligence. So I no longer want to serve these bad masters. Now I just want to serve you. Yeah, Krishna's the best master. So on that note, maybe I'll open this up for any questions or comments. First question is usually the most difficult because people are shy.
So it was first of all, thank you very much. Wonderful Krishna Lounge presentation and Krishna Katha. So thank you so much. And great bhajan kirtan earlier. So appreciate being a part of that. I have a question related to a recent conversation. I was talking recently to a young 20-something, and they said they're struggling with life and been struggling with family that, an upbringing that was a bit challenged, and, they didn't really have a stable place to dwell and so forth. So their focus is on establishing like stability in their life. And they said that, they grew up primarily like in a family that was homeless, and that they don't want to ever be homeless, and that they just want to be comfortable, that they just want to have life be peaceful. And so their objective was to work to create a pleasant life, to have a home. And they said, I'm not really thinking about like what's going to happen after this life, if I go to heaven or hell or anything of that nature. I just don't want to be homeless. And the thought that came to my mind is everybody in the material world is homeless, meaning at the time that the body is annihilated, if we don't know the absolute truth and realize the absolute truth, the soul is going to be evicted from the body. So in truth, nobody really has a home in the material world. So I'm just puzzled, how do we approach a conversation or helping individuals like this who seek to find enjoyment in the material world and a home in the material world that appears to be temporary?
Well, people have homes in this world. Everybody here, I think, has a home where they live and eat and sleep. But these homes that we have now are temporary. We have to move on. Even you may have a beautiful mansion, $30 million mansion. You got to move on. You can't stay there. So we have an eternal home. That's the spiritual world. And this process, this called sadhana bhakti, this is a process by which we can get purified and become qualified to go to our eternal home, spiritual world. Yeah. Any other question or comment? Yes. Nice kirtan, thank you. What do you think? It was pretty good? You liked it?
So sweet. I just have a comment.
Yes.
I really loved everything that you talked about tonight. Even from the beginning, how you opened up the class about Parikshit Maharaj, and he had 7 days to live, and I thought that was like the perfect way to open up your class. And I never heard of the mountain example of Brahman realization and Paramatma realization and Krishna realization. I thought that was brilliant. Like, that really clicked in my mind, because I've never really understood it in that way before. And I loved all the stories you told, kept the class very interesting, and I love how you talked about Prabhupada's journey here. And the thing that hit the most with me was when you were talking about how this process it could feel like poison in the beginning, but nectar in the end. And when you said that, it was just like struck a chord within me, because like practicing, trying to dive deeper into my own spiritual practice, it doesn't always like feel good. But when you said that, I was like, oh, okay. And so I found that to be really encouraging, and I'm definitely gonna try to. Is there a recording? I definitely want to re-listen to this class again and jot down more notes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in the back there, in blonde hair.
Hi, thank you so much. So I just have been seeking advice on like what to do to get over like the feeling of lack of intimacy and like loneliness. And
Yeah, there's a lot of loneliness now because of this COVID. Actually, we always have our best friend with us, believe it or not. As I mentioned earlier, Paramatma, the super soul, this is an expansion of Krishna. He's right there in your heart. And he's waiting for you to turn to him. And this relationship just gets better and better and better. And you feel more and more and more happiness by this connection. Yoga actually means connection. Connection of the soul with the super soul. And this is the real relationship. Not these temporary relationships. These temporary relationships are very, very difficult. You might have experienced material relationships. They quite often they end in bitter experience. But not so with our relationship with Krishna. It just gets better and better and better. So this is what I suggest that you try this chanting. This Hare Krishna mantra is very powerful. As I mentioned this verse that in this age of Kali, this age is filled with many faults. But the one good quality of this age is that simply by chanting this Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, we can become completely purified of all material contamination and become eligible, qualified to enter into the spiritual world. This is the power of this mantra. You know, a lot of people, it's a big thing now, mindfulness, meditation. But I asked them, so what do you do? What kind of meditation do you do? Oh, I meditate on the breath. What's that going to do? Yeah. Or I try to clear thoughts from my mind. What kind of meditation is that? And you can't clear thoughts from your mind. That's also a thought. Let me clear thoughts from my mind, clear thought. That's a thought. You can't clear thoughts from your mind, and what is the use of meditating on breath? But this Hare Krishna mantra, this has a very deep meaning, very deep. Hare means the internal energy of Krishna. Krishna has many energies. You know, the internal, the external. We are also part. We're the marginal energy. We are all souls within the body. We're the marginal. We can choose to serve Krishna or not. So that's the marginal energy. And then there's you can pass those lunches around if you like. I mean dinners. Here comes your evening dinner, vegan dinner, nice healthy dinner for you. So okay. I think I answered that. What was that? Do you remember? Oh yeah, Hare. Hare means the internal energy of God. Krishna means the all-attractive one. God is not unattractive, just like Michelangelo, he painted that picture of God on the top of that one church in Rome. He doesn't look like that. He's the most beautiful person. And Rama means the pleasure potency. So we all want pleasure. By chanting this mantra, you experience, believe it or not, great pleasure, great happiness just by chanting this mantra. So this is real meditation. And we have devotees now in this movement been chanting Hare Krishna for 55 years, 2 hours a day, and experiencing so much happiness. Okay? Yes, you have a question?
I do. I also love your analogy of the mountain and how it looks. I feel as though I've climbed many mountains, but the very nature of life and our senses means that there's always some level of illusion. So
level of illusion?
Illusion, right. So even as one is Brahman, there's always illusion mixed in with it, right?
There's always...
illusion,
Illusion.
the material world. We never leave the material world. We're bound.
No, we could
No?
leave.
Like I need my voice to even speak.
Yeah, the body
you know?
is bound, but
Yeah.
you're not. You're not the body.
Yeah, but I have to communicate through my body. My actions
Yeah.
are through my body.
Yeah.
Even my thinking, unless I'm flatline, brain dead, is still. So I feel as though there's always some illusion mixed in with enlightenment, and it's like,
No.
I'd love to hear you talk about that.
Yeah, okay. Well, the goal is to get free of this illusion. Yeah. That we're this body, that we're the enjoyers, that we're the proprietors. No. So yeah, but yeah, it's not easy to get rid of this, to get free of this. It's called Maya, illusion. It's not easy, very difficult. And Krishna says, Daivi hesa gana maya mama maya jodhya. This divine, he calls it divine energy, Maya, illusion. It's very difficult to overcome. But one who surrenders unto me can very easily cross beyond it. So this is the only way to cross beyond illusion. You gotta take shelter of Krishna. There's one over there, okay?
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question. Personally, I have invested myself to meditation, and through some of my darkest moments, I actually found relief in chanting that. Tears will literally crystallize out of my eyes, and so will go the anger and the shame and the guilt. And like you said, it's just this bliss, and I can definitely attest to that. Through my studies.
Here's a testimony. You hear?
Yes, I have. I was homeless. Now I have an oceanfront apartment. I've been very blessed. I understand Krishna consciousness, and I have surrendered blindly to this faith of a flow state, where I am in perfect divine flow. And at times I truly feel crazy that I am living my life like this, because I once lived working. I had an executive job at AT&T, working open to close, and I had a lot of money, but I was unhappy. I was morbidly obese. And so now I find myself almost not working, yet money always presents itself. Opportunities always present themselves. I'm always provided for. So I wanted to ask, since I have embodied this perfect divine flow, and I am looking forward to what's next, the main thing I focus on now is being present at all times. It's like I have acknowledged my soul chose to be here in this body at this time. And so I want to honor my soul, but I want to honor the humble life of this human being that I have embodied. Is there anything that you could say in regards to that balance?
You're doing very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was in the same position. I was on this journey, and things were going so well spiritually, and I was anticipating what's the next page that's going to open in this journey. And shortly after that, I met devotees, and I moved into the monastery 43 years ago. So it was a very nice experience, the journey to Krishna. It's very nice. So, I encourage you. Continue on as you're going, and Krishna will make nice arrangements for you. As you're experiencing His presence, you'll experience His presence more and more as you continue on. It becomes nicer and nicer. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the class, Vijaya. I was wondering if you could tell us more about your own dreams. You talked about nightmares, maybe, but none of your dreams. So.
I don't dream much. But I did have a dream once, a memorable dream with Prabhupada, our spiritual master, the founder Acharya. I was in Los Angeles, and see this murti here, it's a statue. But in the dream, he came alive, and it was pretty pretty ecstatic. And he asked me for something, and I went to go get it, and it was very ecstatic, just experiencing that. So this murti is actually not material. Murti, the statue. Like we have deities here, they're not material. Anything else from our guest? Otherwise, we'll hear one more from our resident monk. That's you. No?
Touching on the question earlier, as far as this appearance that there's always entanglement of enlightenment with the material body, I was wondering if you can maybe enlighten on who is the enjoyer, who is the doer, like who's actually eating right now, like these modes of material nature that appear in the forms of bodies, and what is the soul that's Satchit Ananda. So the doer, the enjoyer, the material nature that's acting, and the observer, that Satchit Ananda, and who's Satchit Ananda Vigraha. But put it in ways that are digestible.
Nice little pun there. Yeah, Krishna, he is the doer. You know, we think, we're doing this, like you're all eating now. You're using your hands, but sometimes they become paralyzed. There's one, I think it was a basketball player. He was professional. He got paralyzed. He couldn't pick up a ball anymore. Yeah. So we're thinking that we're able to do things. But you never know. We can lose our ability. Yeah. So Krishna's the doer. He allows us. He's allowing us to use our hands, use our brain, use our legs. They can be taken away at any moment. Yeah. And he's the enjoyer. You're enjoying the nice prasadam. We call this prasadam. It's called the mercy of Krishna, because it's been offered to Krishna, and he has eaten it. He's honored it, but he leaves it for us to also eat. This is God. But we also can enjoy that. We can also enjoy that in connection with Krishna. But if we try to enjoy separate from Krishna, then we become entangled. Then we have difficulty. And therefore people throughout the world, so much difficulty because of removing God from the picture. Yeah. God is in the center. Everything is wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Is that digestible? Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Oh, there's a question over here. All right. Microphone is coming. We're on the internet. The world is hearing you.
I'm Italian. I'm pretty loud. But
Okay. No, but the internet. Yeah, there you go.
it's probably a big question, so you have to go too much into it. But what's the best way to raise children in Krishna consciousness?
Oh. Well, be a good example yourself. Most important is to be a good example yourself. If you're Krishna conscious, then the children will see your happiness and Krishna consciousness and gentlemanly qualities, and they'll want to also take it up. Most important. It's not so much what we say to them, what we do. They're seeing what we're doing. That's what's most important. Example is better than precept, they say. Yeah. Done? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.